Howdy y'all, I hope you guys are all doing well, I hope you guys are safe, and I hope you guys are healthy. My name is Josh, and I absolutely love clothing, personal style, fashion, things like that, so if you're into that type of thing, feel free to subscribe to me here on YouTube, as well as follow me on Instagram at @wears_galdo. So I wanted to go ahead and share that my new, kind of fairly new interest, I never really was into watches before, but I've definitely picked up on it and started learning about them more and more, and they are so fascinating as both a status symbol and a piece of functional clothing, I guess you could say, a functional accessory, I should say. Shout out my friend Dante, best Vegas club promoter in the game, so definitely give him a follow on his socials, because he's definitely one of the people that introduced me to the whole world of watches, when I thought, or my preconceived notion was that the barrier to entry for watches was extremely high, when there's just so many methods of obtaining really good quality watches at whatever price point. And I do plan to do a little watch collection video in the future, as well as a little bit of like a beginner's guide to watches for those who are interested in getting into the hobby, and ways that I obtain watches without breaking the bank. So keep an eye out for that, but today's video is going to be a particular review on a watch that has been, I guess, kind of popular as of late. So the Omega Swatch collaboration, Omega being kind of a high-end luxury, very expensive watch company, and then Swatch, which is a less, I guess, they have stores in malls and stuff. They're a more common and widely available watch, and so they collaborated to do a watch that is based completely around basically the solar system, and so there is a watch for every planet out there, as well as the moon and the sun. And so these watches are very interesting, very cool. I love the theming of it, and it's executed, at least in my opinion, pretty well. There are definitely aspects from both watch companies, but I did a little bit more research, and the conglomerate that owns both Swatch and Omega is the Swatch Group. And so doing a collaboration between Omega and Swatch, it's like doing a collaboration between two companies that are owned by the same people, which I think is kind of hilarious. It's like doing a collaboration with yourself, essentially. So how I got this was actually in my local Swatch store. From what I was told, although it's a collaboration that happened a year ago, this is one that they've been restocking and restocking. So call your local Swatch. Maybe they have certain ones in stock for you guys, but this right here is the packaging. Mission to Saturn. I didn't have very many options. The Swatch that I went to had Mission to Saturn and Jupiter. Ideally, I would really like the one for Mercury or the Moon, which is like grays and blacks, but honestly, this one is really cool because it is in a color that I usually don't own for a watch, or I don't have in my collection so far. The packaging is super nice, so there is obviously that Mission to Saturn. Of course, on the side here we have Bioceramic MoonSwatch collection that's on the bottom here. A little bit of tidbits of information up here. One cannot stand on Saturn as it is made of gas. A couple of more little fun facts for you right over here. And branding right over here. And on the back, which I think is the coolest thing, it actually shows all of the different variations of this collection. You slide it on off, the watch opens up like that, which I think is such a cool little touch. I know watches are known for like great packaging and presentation, and so I am actually really excited to have this. But let's go ahead and talk about the actual watch itself. Here it is. So I went ahead and went with the Saturn, which is the brown one. I really like this one, and learning more about watches just through this collaboration has been quite the journey. There's so much to know, and it is such kind of like a simple thing, like a watch just tells time, but there is so much functionality that is incorporated to watches in general. Allow me to talk about this watch from the outside in. We have a Velcro strap with actual branding on the strap itself. Well, right here it says Speedmaster, it says MoonSwatch, Mission to Saturn. So all the information about the watch itself is going to be on the strap. I am not a huge Velcro strap type of person, but I do think it looks a little bit more like sporty and casual. But we also have Swatch right over here, as well as Omega on the strap itself as well. So really easy to take on. It's really easy to put on and take off. Let's get to the actual watch itself. Let's look at the face. This is actually based off of the Omega Speedmaster, and you can see that branding throughout the actual watch itself. But this watch is, to me, as a watch noob or novice, pretty complicated compared to the other watches that I've owned, and honestly there is so much function hidden in this one watch that it's kind of wild. And it costs $260 for this watch, which is considerably lower than the thousands that Omega has its regular watches. There is a couple of things about this watch that kind of cheapen it compared to luxury watches, but I'll get to that in a little bit. So the casing itself, meaning this kind of like sandish beige brown casing, is actually Swatch's bioceramic material. Some people call it plastic. I don't really know the composition of it. Actually, let me go ahead and look that up just so I can be thorough. According to Swatch, it is, or bioceramic rather, is a hybrid composition of ceramic and biosourced material that is sourced from castor plant oil. Whereas other watches will be made of steel, silver, gold, other things like that, this one is going to be a little bit different. Starting with the bare bones basics of this watch, there are the hour and the minute hands, which are going to be in white, and then there is going to be one kind of greenish hand that is, I'll explain the purpose of that a little bit later. But I wanted to go ahead and move on to the actual dials that are within the watch itself. At the bottom is going to be a picture of Saturn. That's going to keep track of your active seconds. That hand is going to be just running continuously. And then over here on the top corner right over here, when you use the basically stopwatch function, that'll actually go ahead and calculate down to the 10th of a second. So that's going to be a pretty accurate time. And then the other side is going to keep track of 60 minutes, however many minutes, up to 60 minutes has gone by when you use the stopwatch function. I really like the incorporated Saturn picture with the seconds dial on bottom, but then obviously you can tell that there's just regular white tick marks for the watch itself to show you the different hours. On the outside of the bevel in this brown is going to be called the tachymeter, and that in congruent use of the chronograph, which is a stopwatch, which you use these keys to function. Those in combination can actually approximate the speed at which something is going. I'm not going to show you guys how to do that. It's a little complicated. You can go ahead and look that up on YouTube from someone who knows watches way better than I do. But going back to that kind of greenish hand right over here. So if you go ahead and click this top button, you'll see the green hand start to go. That's the beginning of the stopwatch itself. And if you want to go ahead and stop, say you're timing like a car, say you're timing something or anything else in regard to speed, you go ahead and press that again, and that green hand will stop at the seconds that it was going. But you can also see in this little bevel right over here, that will calculate down to the 10th of a second that you stopped the clock. Now you can go ahead and continue that count by clicking that top button, and then the hands start to move yet again until you're done calculating or looking at when whatever your timing stopped. Well, that green hand will kind of stay there. If you want to reset it, you just press the bottom button and it goes back to the neutral position. Just as a little crash course in the terminology that I use, chronograph is a stopwatch, tachymeter is the kind of bezel marks here that'll calculate the approximate speed of whatever it is you're measuring. But let's go ahead and go back to just kind of regular watch function. So this right here, the crown, you can actually pull out at 2 different stages, and you can adjust the time if you want. And what I mean by 2 stages is you can pull it out just 1 tick, and that can actually adjust the settings on your chronograph and tachymeter, actually just chronograph. And then the second position will adjust the timing itself. Pressing it back into place will go ahead and start the times and everything and have your watch functioning just normally. What's cool about this MoonSwatch collection is that on the back it actually has a picture of the planet or celestial body that your watch is inspired by, and so this watch itself is going to be powered by a quartz movement. And in simpler terms, a lot of watches can come in different types of movements which make the watch function. There's like a wind up or manual, there's automatic. This one is quartz, and if you've ever seen quartz before, quartz movements simply just mean battery operated, and that's what makes this watch, I think, cheaper, is that a lot of other very expensive watches have very complicated and complex mechanisms inside to go ahead and allow that watch to function and keep good time. But this watch is going to be battery operated, so if it ever dies, you can just replace it really quick. It's super easy to do, and that is kind of like indicative of a lot of swatches. Swatches make, for the most part, quartz movement watches, and so they are very easily used and accessed. And there are other inscriptions that are just basically embezzled into the actual case of the watch itself. Not that it makes that much of a difference, it's just water, saying that it's Swiss made, water resistant, a couple of things that are unique to this collection kind of surrounding the outside of it. But generally speaking, this watch is a really, really good watch for beginners, I would say. And beginners, that means me. Now this is what the watch looks like on my wrist. I know most of the things that I own and wear are oftentimes going to be black, gray, or anything like that, but I think a brown watch actually looks pretty nice personally. Do I actually have a use for all the functions that are incorporated in this watch? Absolutely not. I don't think I'm going to be using it for anything specific like that, but I do think that this is kind of like a really good cheap alternative to somebody who doesn't want to spend multiple thousands on an Omega Speedmaster. So I really enjoy this watch, and I don't know if it's going to be my daily, but I definitely think it's a very, very welcome addition to my collection. I do apologize if how I described the workings of this watch got a little bit confusing, but that's the best I could do as of right now, as I understand the watch itself. So, the ceremonial peel back the plastic, and there we go. Omega Swatch, Mission to Saturn. What do you guys think? Are you guys watch people? I don't know if people out there who are fashion heads are also into watches. I think it should go hand in hand a little bit, and I definitely don't think you need a watch that's like ridiculously expensive. I think everyone's goal in life is to own a Rolex or something, and that personally would be like a sign of status or success. But as for a person who loves fashion and stuff like that, these watches are actually pretty cool conceptually to me personally. So let me know what you guys think about this, and let me know if you guys are into watches, and give me some suggestions on what I can learn from or look at when I go ahead and make that whole video about the beginner's guide to watches in, my eyes. I'm going to go ahead and actually also show you guys my watch grails as well, so definitely keep an eye out for that video coming in the future. But yeah, Omega Swatch, I think they're cool. Retail is $260 US dollars, which I think is a pretty fair price for this watch itself. And people who are super into watches, don't roast me. I don't know too much about watches just yet, but trust me, I am on the journey to learn and find what works for me personally. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. Throw all your opinions down in the comments below or DM them to me on Instagram. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I really appreciate your guys' time. So again, thank you guys for watching. I'll catch you guys in the next video.